Hello, welcome to the second episode of ScoobCast. So, well, that first episode was quite something. Now, expect me to possibly adjust my microphone throughout this episode, so audio may be inconsistent, but I guess as long as it works, then it works. On the last episode, I got, I guess, a lot of feedback, and most of it was actually very positive, surprisingly about like just everything's good. Obviously, you want to fix the audio and all that. So I guess maybe I could just keep going with this, but yeah, let's try and make just the first actual podcast that will work for the most part. The next episode, uh yeah. So I'll talk about this later into this podcast, but our next episode will be a guest episode. I'm just gonna say that. So I don't know how many guests there will be. I'm thinking only one, but there could be more, so who knows? So, yeah, let's talk about the mess of why that first podcast was broken. So, unfortunately, the blue snowball microphone cable that runs from the laptop to the screen the webcam you're looking at, there's a from where I'm pointing, there is a charger port right there. And unfortunately, the microphone can just get a little angled, and then the audio becomes, well, a very, very shitty mess. And in fact, I don't have my headphones on, so I cannot tell the audio this time. I'm just gambling, hoping that it actually is working, and I can still mostly hear what I'm saying. So, yeah, so, general impressions, I kind of already mentioned this, but it seems that a lot of people are definitely positive about this podcast, even if there's a very scuffed setup. The microphone just isn't that working that well. So, cool. Yeah, thanks. I'm surprised that it does well because, I mean, by the end there, I literally had to put a meme there just to, you know, just just to make it bearable to watch, I guess. But seems that people were able to ignore how bad the audio quality was. So I don't know how bad me being either too far away or being too close to the mic will be, but I don't want to look like I'm scrunched over like I'm like a internet virgin, but kind of looks like that right now. Problem is, I got a new stand, but the table is not high enough for me to, just stand up like this. So unfortunately, I don't have that many options here. So I guess we'll just try and talk about actual topics. Today's topics are just going to be pretty stereotypical ones and general ones. I tried talking about Chris Chan, last time, but didn't really work. So that's unfortunate. So let's talk about the Delta variant and Lambda variant of COVID. Now, I don't know why they're coming up with half-life names now for COVID diseases, but it seems that they're doing that. So let's talk about them. So according to many health experts, and I'm going to go off of health experts because first of all, I haven't passed high school science because I'm not in high school, and these guys actually have knowledge in their field. And if you don't believe otherwise, well, I mean, whatever, fine. You're dumb, but whatever, fine. Believe in Facebook and all that. It's cool. But according to researchers and all that, the Delta variant and Lambda variant are way more dangerous than the current strands of COVID we have. So they're way more transmissible. And I think for the Lambda variant, it actually is way more resistant to vaccines, which is great. It's just to put a heavy nail into the coffin of how screwed we are, I guess, with COVID, but not really. I mean, eventually we're going to have to return to normal, but it seems like COVID may be with us for a long time, kind of like the flu. But COVID's more dangerous than the flu. Now, with the flu, I mean, yeah, it sucks. If you get it, it sucks, and people die from it. Yes, I've had it before myself. It's not fun. But the thing with the flu is that it's way less transmissible and less people die of it. But with COVID, these new strains are certainly going to cause some interesting predicaments for people who either don't believe in the vaccines or don't believe in COVID at all. And when they finally do get it, either they're going to completely deny that they have COVID and then probably die because they're not healthy. They probably smoke 10 cigarettes a day. Or maybe they actually start believing in COVID and begin, becoming like everyone else in society that actually has a working brain. So, I don't know, man. So, yeah, it's pretty, it's kind of sad that COVID's not going to just disappear, but that's not really how things work, I guess, obviously, in terms of virology. But I guess I could also just segue into talking about COVID conspiracy theories because I kind of like just, talking about stupid people. It's just kind of fun to see how they act and just see how they try and reason with this world, even though it's already been reasoned with. And you know what? I guess in some ways they have a reason to be skeptical of everything, given how the US government, the Chinese government, and plenty of other governments in the world are not very trustworthy in terms of, I guess, just treating their citizens right or just, security stuff. Like for China, for instance, they censor people. They they're doing a modern Holocaust today with the Uyghurs. I've already said that a lot, and they're also, they're pretty much trying to take over Hong Kong early. So yeah, obviously, since this virus came from China and it came from Wuhan, and there happens to be a virology lab in Wuhan, it's gonna bring a lot of conspiracy theories, and I guess I'm kind of divided on this. See, I believe that there are good conspiracy theories and bad ones. The problem with good ones is that, well, the thing is though, it's just that it's not very proven well with the ideas of that good conspiracy theory. So, let's say the assassination of JFK. Now, some people are going to say, or just bluntly admit, no, JFK was murdered by the CIA or something, or the FBI. So we don't really know much about it, but all we know from history and our history classes is that JFK was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. But then Lee Harvey Oswald was murdered by Jack Ruby and assassinated again. So that's pretty funny. He assassinated someone and then got assassinated himself. But the thing is, though, with Jack Ruby, he was not a CIA agent. He just seemed like a normal guy who actually was very fond of the president and just wanted to take some personal revenge. With Lee Harvey Oswald, I guess with the conspiracy theories that they put out there, I guess it makes sense that they would question a lot of stuff. Like, how did they manage to capture him so quickly and identify that he was the one who assassinated him? And problem is, there are truths and lies to this, and there's also some actual general good evidence that actually favors the conspiracy theory more. But at the same time, Lee Harvey Oswald was a Cuban sympathizer, and he literally had a tape of him just talking about how he was in this club or group that had to do with sympathizing with Cuba and communism and all that. So it could make sense that Lee Harvey Oswald just did not like JFK and just assassinated him for that. But I guess, yeah, whatever, fine, that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald managed to use a hunting rifle that was not very good for shooting at moving targets. And he somehow managed to hit him from a pretty far distance, I'd imagine, with a small target that's moving at maybe 30 to 20 miles an hour. So, how did he manage to assassinate him? Well, currently that's where it stands, but it seems that since we don't know a lot about it, that has led a lot of people to believe that JFK was not truly assassinated by just, some guy who did not like his agenda, but truly the CIA or something. But I don't really care about the JFK conspiracy theory because it's something that doesn't really affect us. It really, I guess maybe it does because it changes history if we were to find out the truth. But I don't know. Some people reported hearing two shots from two different locations, and some just, of course, just reported Lee Harvey Oswald firing two shots, missing one, but hitting JFK and actually hitting the other person who was in the car with him, severely injuring him. But yeah, anyways, back to COVID conspiracy theories. I wanted to go on a little tangent there, but pretty much, COVID conspiracy theories are both dumb and sometimes believable at the same time, but they're mostly dumb. See, whatever. Talk about the origins of the virus, whatever, question it, and just be very blaming of the US government and Chinese government. But do not talk about the vaccines, okay? Those are completely different. Those actually help people. And I don't know if you've ever gotten any kind of other vaccine in your life, but they also help you. Just had a hiccup there, but it's very hard to keep talking when you have a goddamn hiccup. So, what kind of sucks is that there's all of these crazy conspiracy nut jobs that think the COVID vaccine is going to kill you slowly or give you horrible mutations, I guess. So, 5G, um, just all of that stuff. Now, I have been fully vaccinated, so yay for me, I guess, even though the second shot was heavily more painful than the first one because I reacted to it, which means I got a fever. But I haven't felt mutations yet, unfortunately. It's kind of a ripoff. I kind of wanted to become a 5G hulking lizard mutant hybrid machine thing, but guess not. All I have is just this need to either work for Microsoft or buy Microsoft products. So yeah, I don't know. Also, I hate this position. I hate having to sit like this. So, yeah. Now, for the origins of COVID as a conspiracy theory, well, I guess that is more debatable, but it could also, if you think about it scientifically, I guess, yeah, it's right. It's definitely come from bats or any kind of animal, certainly, and spread through Chinese markets where they sell animals because they eat them, I guess, but I don't know. The fact that there's a virology lab in Wuhan, and the fact that the Chinese government isn't always the most trustworthy government. In fact, they actually lied about the amount of cases they had, and they did not really help to stop spread the case of COVID. So I don't know. There's just a lot of problems, and a lot of people who are, in favor of Trump and all those other, QAnon or Republican candidates will go against Fauci and whatever. Who knows? Maybe they're right. Maybe Fauci's a very bad person, but maybe they're wrong, which they likely are, and they're just reacting too much. And they're calling everyone who wears masks and tries to get vaccinated fearful, but it seems that they are the ones that are fearing COVID, I'd say, because to them it seems like the government's trying to initiate crowd control on an entire continent and maybe even the world. So a lot of them are like, oh, my rights are being violated, man. I can't go outside. I can't, do these things. I'm supposed to wear a mask in a private place, private property that can do whatever they want with how I wear stuff. That sucks, man. It's totally not like they're private properties that can put their own rules and are only following what the government says because it's a smart idea and they still want to have customers. So, I don't know, man. Just ridiculous. My First Amendment rights are being violated, and I quite frankly wish to begin a revolution. Now, to any government workers that are currently spying on my laptop as I'm talking to myself like a schizophrenic, I do not want to start a revolution, but at the same time, I kind of do. So, go off with that what you will. Now, I guess COVID conspiracies all aside, and the fact that maybe they're right. Yeah, maybe there's something fishy going on with COVID. Maybe it's not from an animal, but it's bioengineered. But there's just a lot of inconsistencies that they make with their arguments, and it quite honestly makes arguing with them about science in general just a pain in the ass because they have room temperature IQs and they never graduated high school science. So, yeah. Now, let's go on to the next topic, which is, well, talk about as I said earlier, we're going to talk about the next episode of this podcast with being a guest episode. Now, I do not currently have a guest. I'm not going to, even if I did, I would have not revealed it. But there are certainly a lot of people that want to be a guest, and I guess most of them are my friends, so that kind of makes things pretty funny. Yeah. So there's just a lot of figuring things out and just making everything work, especially with the audio, because I'm really, really hoping that when I go to look at this footage, the audio is good. And the only thing I have to worry about is when I go too far from my mic and you can barely hear me, and then I get super close and maybe it's like super loud, but hopefully everything works and it's fine and I do not have to worry. But I just want things to work. And a lot of people were fine with how the previous episode was, of course, until the end. In fact, one of my friends said to make it an hour long, which I told him I will try and do that if I can make things work. But yeah, there's just a lot of figuring out going on and tinkering and trying to mess around with everything. Probably should have drank water before this because Jesus Christ, I am hiccuping a little bit. So, yeah. Now, this is going to be an interesting question for me. Now, it's not really, I mean, I'm making it in the form of a question, but I guess I want to try and give more baseline to what the podcast will be. So, I'm going to talk about if I were to be invited to another podcast to be on as a host or co-host, I mean, or maybe even a guest, would I stop doing this one? Now, primarily the co-host one, but no, I probably will not. But I don't know. I mean, I have been on podcasts before, and on my old channel, Bandman J, or Bandman 5, that I called it now because I changed it recently so it fits more. Well, yeah, I used to have my own podcast on my old channel, and it's kind of exactly like this one, except I wasn't talking about politics, I wasn't talking about COVID. I was really just actually bringing guests in and sort of interviewing them, which, whatever, it was fine, but not really. I mean, just was kind of weird and cringy. And sometimes it wasn't even a real podcast, it was just people messing around, which I guess maybe that makes things more funny and chaotic, but I don't know. I kind of just like to sit down and talk. And some of the guests that I'm thinking about, well, they're certainly chaotic people. And you know what? I do want to bring chaos to this podcast. But currently, right now, I need to make things calmer because I need to figure all this dumb stuff out. So, for Discord calls, I'm just hoping that when I am calling someone, I'm hoping that the setup is right and they can properly hear me and Discord isn't cutting out because where I am currently, I'm in the, this is the attic of my oldest sister's room, or what was her room, because she lives in a different place now, of course. So this is pretty much my own room to do whatever, I guess you could say. So I could either record videos over there where I'm pointing, or of course record podcasts right here on this couch. Hopefully we don't ever move this couch, but did you ever notice this setup here with that plant vase? Yeah. So the door is right there, so in case funny ghosts show up and decide to ruin my podcast, I can sprint out of there like an Olympian athlete, but yeah. Now, I did mention how I was on other podcasts, and it's not even just my own podcast on my old channel that I was on. I used to be on this one called Clowncast, and it was with a group of IRL friends that I had, and we would occasionally have guests from my former friend's main server, because he had a Discord server, and he was a YouTuber. Now, of course, I mentioned former friend. A lot of people already know who I'm talking about. I mean, I don't really have that much big of a fan base anyways, so it kind of seems pointless to kind of just, just explain who they are, but you know who they are. So I was on their podcast. It ran for about, I think, 3 to 5 episodes. It's been a while. I don't remember. I have dementia, so I don't know, but it was fun. And you know what? It was pretty much like an actual podcast. We would talk about stuff, but we'd also make jokes. And with this podcast, I would kind of like to capture that feeling, but it would also be a solo podcast at the same time. So I don't know. During that time, it was great, but obviously good things have to come to an end. So once I stopped being friends with that main person, obviously they stopped doing the podcast because, well, what's the point? Actually, they didn't stop doing it. He wanted to rebranded it. He rebranded it, and well, he's not doing it right now, but he will probably be doing it soon. But basically, of course, why would you want to try and do a podcast with one of your co-hosts missing now? That seems kind of weird, doesn't it? So yeah, now he's rebranding it to make a new host and all that, but currently it's going nowhere. But I have made this podcast go somewhere, so I think I'm winning currently. Yeah. But yeah, that podcast was fun to be on, and I would definitely love to be a part of other podcasts from other YouTubers. But of course, I'm not going to be on that rebranded podcast. It's just no way. But, you know, it's cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not going to stop doing this podcast if I were to become a co host of another podcast. I mean, this is pretty much my own solo podcast. I kind of branded this as like if my Twitter account were to be a podcast, but, it's actually more sophisticated. On my Twitter account, I'm pretty much just rambling all the time within like less than a paragraph of sentences because, Twitter character limits and all that. But, you know, it's just, a podcast is way more fun to have because, you can say a lot more stuff with it. So, now, now that I've talked about the Clowncast and kind of what has happened to it and, just kind of my history of podcast, why am I doing a podcast? Well, I'm doing a podcast because it's just cool, you know? It's just kind of cool to talk about stuff, talk about whatever, vent your thoughts. Even though I guess I'm just talking to a camera, really, just an asshole talking to a camera. Jack's Films reference right there. But it does feel a little bit empty with just me being here. So I don't know. I just kind of like talking about stuff, even if there's no one here. I just kind of like talking to a camera just to express how I feel. It's kind of stereotypical, but that's really just how I feel, I guess, because, you know, you don't really get to do this a lot. You only get to do this with your friends, really, or just, maybe, I don't know, you're in a game or something, you somehow form a bond with a group of strangers you haven't met before. So, I guess obviously, yeah, there's going to be a couple boring points in the podcast here. And I'd imagine that maybe for right now, there's a lot of buzz with this podcast for my channel, but then eventually I expect this to die down. But if people continue listening to it, I'm going to be genuinely surprised. But currently, where I need to figure things out is, of course, getting the tech and all that and the setup just right, just make it sound good, look good, make sure it's consistent. So, yeah. But also, staying consistently funny or entertaining, I guess you could say. But I'm going to imagine that there's going to be a couple times on this podcast where I'm going to get very serious with what I talk about. Now, as I was talking about a serious subject earlier, but I decided to make it less serious, like COVID, you know, yeah, because I don't know, maybe I'll talk about personal life stories. Maybe I'll talk about terrible friends, and those are all relevant currently. But but where everything stands right now, I currently have to figure things out. So this next episode will be a guest episode. So let's see if it will be terrible or it will be good. But yeah. Now, those were all my listed topics that I'm going to go off of because obviously there are definitely a lot of things I guess I would want to talk about, but you have to, just make sure everything transitions well into each other. Now, you may ask, why am I a schizophrenic talking into a pretty empty but big attic room to myself, to a camera, and thinking that I'm all professional and stuff? Well, I don't know. I mean, it looks cool, I guess. I mean, right here, I have my mouse pad for just nothing. Right here, I have the table that the laptop sits on. Right here, you can't see it, but you can't see these either. But currently using a very scuffed setup with my microphone. In fact, it may just cut out right now. I'm currently checking voice meter to make sure that the thing that on the camera that says uh, what if my mic is working or not does not go red. So yeah, as you can see here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a vacuum cleaner. That's cool. Right here, there's a rain lamp. That's cool, I guess. Although I don't really plan on using it because, I mean, well, if I were to make this room completely dark, it would just kind of look weird. But then again, maybe I should go for a dark feel to it so if things feel more cozy and comfortable. I mean, currently, I'm sitting in a room that is heavily air conditioned because this is the top room of my house. And heat very, of course, if you passed high school science, which COVID deniers did not, you would know that heat rises. And unfortunately, this is always like the hottest room of the house, which I guess in the winter is cool, but in the summer, unfortunately, walking up here, which I mean, you already have to take a little bit of effort with that, you're going to be sweating within like literally 2 minutes. So it's going to be very funny. Just like, oh shit, man, I'm sweating my balls off. Now, I've got a keyboard. I have no use for it because it's not even plugged in. I have a keyboard on my laptop. I could also use that, but I'm not going to use that. There's a mattress that I folded up so you wouldn't see it on camera, but does it even matter because you can't even see it on camera? And I occasionally look away from the main camera here because I have autism. So yeah, there's a pillow right here. I'm just pretty much going off because I have nothing to talk about. And the fact that I'm trying to make this work is just kind of pathetic. But I guess let's talk about just the problems with being a YouTuber. Now, I think I should probably talk about this cuz I haven't, but on my main channel, I hit 200 subscribers. In fact, we're actually at 210 subscribers and it's growing. I mean, this is actually a lot of growth considering that I was at a very blank spot at some point. So, thanks guys for 200 subs. That's great. That's cool. That's epic. And on my second channel, I made a video talking about just my personal thoughts on the Venturian Tale drama. This would be perfect for the podcast. And you know what? Maybe I should talk about it right now. But yeah. So I made the Venturian Tale video, and my second channel went from 50 subscribers to 150, which that's substantial. And that video on Venturian Tale, it got 20K views. It is actually one of the most viewed videos on the Venturian Tale drama topic, which, wow, that I'm surprised anyone even clicked on it at all because the thumbnail is nothing related to the Venturian Tale. It's literally just the gameplay in the background is literally just me playing Blade and Sorcery. There's no music, there's barely any edits. It's just me, it's just a 13-year-old talking. And although there was a lot of criticism, it was mostly positive, but it was mostly people talking about, the drama and stuff and being sad about it, which, yeah, that makes sense. But I I usually respond to the people who present criticism because most of them are just wrong most of the time. In fact, a lot of people who watched that video and criticized my video actually just did not really listen that well to my argument. And being a 13-year-old and only with a slight indication that you seem older with a deep voice, a lot of people seem to just not listen to what you say and treat you as garbage or just a child otherwise. Which, yeah, I guess I am still a child. But, uh, sorry, bro. I think I know what I'm talking about here. I mean, I don't know, man. Now, with that comment section, yeah, there was a lot of bullshit from people who just completely missed the point of the video and also just completely misinterpreted my entire argument of the video. A lot of people were telling me, like, bro, religion isn't bad. And I was saying, well, I didn't say that it was bad. I just said that it's bad in a lot of circumstances that tend to raise people in very negative ways. Shit, my diaphragm. Oh, COVID. Oh, yeah. I almost threw up last night. But anyways, uh yeah. So the fact that that video managed to completely support my entire channel, that seems pretty interesting. So my second channel is now, it could seem by the looks of it, actually be, it's going to eventually get more subscribers than my main channel, which, yeah, I think it probably will, which I don't really care. But because given how I upload a lot of videos on trendy topics and I seem to release them at a very good time, like the Venturian Tale thing, it was released like right at the beginning of it. And I had watched the entire Bethany video so that I knew exactly what I was talking about. But yeah, there's just a lot of bullshit in that comment section from people. And, it sometimes sucks that in this day and age, people just do not, listen. But that's how it is. In fact, one of the most recent criticisms was that I had just taken one side and gone with it. And they're right, and they have a point. And they were talking about how the internet is like terrible now because that's all people do. They just take a side, they don't take a neutral stance. They have a point, but they also are wrong. And also, what do they expect from the internet? I mean, if I were to describe the internet perfectly, I would just watch Bo Burnham's Inside song on it, Welcome to the Internet. I mean, it's perfect representation of how the internet seems good, but then in reality, it's just chaos with only just slight instances of good, but it seems mainly bad for society in general. But, you know, I don't really know what you expect from the internet. I mean, nowadays, people will literally cancel you over not, respecting their made up pronouns that aren't valid in any kind of way and are just made up from a character from a show or YouTube channel or something like Dream Gender, Amogus Gender, like Jesus Christ. But, you know, yeah, you really shouldn't expect much from the internet. And also, I know that I did take a side, but quite frankly, that's because I think that with the evidence we currently have, which I guess isn't that much, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm super hypocritical that I'm thinking now that all evidence we had was just Bethany's word, but it was also kind of Sierra's word, which is kind of what made me believe it. But the thing is, though, what's interesting is that Venturian Tale never chose to respond to her or counterclaim what she said. He just simply said, I'm going to take a break. I don't feel comfortable talking about my sister. And then deleted the video that was talking about that and then just, disappeared. So I guess we don't have much reason to really believe, we don't really have much reason to not believe Bethany, I'd say, because it seems like Venturian Tale is avoiding the situation entirely, which seems indicative of, someone who's guilty, but wants to try and just let things calm down. So I'd say that Venturian Tale is guilty, and it's bullshit to not take a side because it clearly seems like he doesn't want to respond to the situation, properly and just avoid it entirely, which is probably a smart idea considering that, holy hell, dude, in this day and age, dude, being in a religion that is, kind of just oppressive and not liking certain ideals of current modern day society like LGBTQ, that is brutal to go through. You're going to get absolutely flamed on social media. But yeah, so I guess Venturian Tale took the right route. He completely avoided the drama. And yeah, that's kind of just how it went. So to any of those people who just said I'm taking a side and I'm not being neutral and that I'm saying a lot of misinformation and inaccurate things, well, quite frankly, you can go screw yourself because, again, Venturian Tale didn't respond to the situation. He's not responding at all. He completely disappeared. He said that he wasn't comfortable talking about it to literally his own sister. And it seems that Sierra also had that problem. We have another witness to the problem. So I think it's pretty safe to say that what Bethany said is right. And it's not, maybe there are some possible misinformation because most of this was from for her childhood, I mean. So she could be remembering things wrong because, I mean, she's literally almost 30 years old, I think. So I'd imagine that She wouldn't remember exactly everything, but maybe she would because it was very traumatic. Who knows what happened during that time? But yeah, just a lot of problems, I guess. And a lot of people may assume that I know nothing about religion and its problems, but also its benefits. But unfortunately, I do. I know a lot. I mean, I'm friends with someone who is in a religion that's, well, to be honest, oppressive, I guess, because people get disowned for simply straying from it. And most of my family members are traditional Christians and or Catholics, I mean. So I think I know a pretty good amount of just religion in general. In fact, most of my siblings took communion. Now, this is kind of hypocritical, but I didn't, but I have a good reason. I was a very autistic little boy because I would not be fit for, doing church and stuff, praying to Jesus and, like not even comprehending what the hell's going on. Like, oh, wait, what are we doing? Why are we, saying nice things about this guy who existed thousands of years ago? And, maybe he never existed in the first place. But yeah, now I do think that in some cases religion is a good thing. I said that in my video actually. There's a lot of good with religion, but at the same time there really isn't. There's a lot of problems, mainly being that since that they believe in hell or whatever bad place you go to when you die if you're someone who was bad in the mortal realm, or simply straying from a certain belief is a sin, it tends to bring a lot of problems with, of course, people just being like, you are a sinner, you cannot do that, you are a buffoon. So, no. It's just kind of disappointing to see all these people who just completely misinterpreted my argument in the video, but I kind of wanted to, I guess I didn't make it clear enough in the video that I was just actually really disappointed about the entire situation. I think anyone would be. I mean, imagine growing up with a YouTube channel. Like, they seemed all great, of course, and that, just they seemed fine. But I guess as it turns out, nothing was fine. Apparently, behind the scenes, maybe it wasn't. And as Bethany and Sierra are currently with their current lives, they rarely talk to, homeless Goomba and Jordan anymore, really. It's really just when Bethany needs help with something that they even talk to her, which is just depressing. So, yeah. Now, the struggles of being a YouTuber. Well, of course, currently with me, I'd say I kind of talked about this in my anniversary video and mainly my anniversary videos, but it's really just like, you sometimes you just go through very big droughts and you can't think of anything good to talk about or discuss or just, invent. But then there are a couple of moments where, dude, you are on fire and you can just do whatever. You can make a video, like a really good video within less than a few weeks, which is what happened with the Trash Files video. I got that video done very quickly and I was very happy that it got done very quickly. I had a lot of motivation to make it. And it was 20 minutes long. And it took me, I think, at least a week to do, which was insane. So, I don't know. It's kind of hard just describing how being a YouTuber is like, but I don't really describe myself as a YouTuber, more so just a hobbyist YouTuber. I don't consider this a job. I never will because, I did want to do YouTube as a job, but then, well, the real world hit me, I guess you could say. I realized that corporations like YouTube, they just get worse over time, and there's just no point in engaging with them like in the best way possible. YouTube back in 2013, it was great. There was a lot of good stuff. This was before clickbait really existed, and I guess maybe it was just exaggerated thumbnails. And all the cringy stuff you had to deal with was just Justin Bieber, Fred, and the big annoying channels that had a certain gimmick to them. But nowadays, it's not like that. It's now a mishmash of just bullshit. So some of it's good, some of it's really bad, and some of it's just mediocre. I guess for my channel, maybe it's like a hidden treasure. Maybe it's just something people haven't really discovered. And the people that know about it are people who were told about it but just never bothered sharing it with other people. So, yeah, I think I need water. I think I need to, realize that I'm going to die of dehydration. I probably should take a walk. I haven't seen the outside in years. The only light that is natural is coming from that bathroom right there. You can't even see it, and I don't even think that bathroom is a working toilet, so I can't take a shit. I can't take a piss. I can't do anything. My lungs are wheezing. My heart's a season, and the fucking walls are melting. It's a pain. It is currently, according to the forecast that says on my laptop, it says it's 84 degrees Fahrenheit and mostly cloudy. It's 2:28 p.m., but I'm pretty sure that my clock isn't even synced right, so actually I think it's like 3:38 then, so that's interesting. The date is August 5th, 2021. Let's check how hot my webcam is. Wow, it's not hot. I mean, when I checked it last time, it was like super hot, but super hot. That was a terrible joke. So that's your one and only terrible joke for this entire podcast, I guess. But yeah. Now, you know what sucks? I'm going back to school early this year. I'm going on the 23rd, which just sucks. I mean, then again, some people are starting literally they started on the 1st of August. But the thing is, though, they get out early in May. So I guess maybe it makes sense. But, by the time school opens, I mean, as I talked about earlier in this podcast, I literally said that there's a Delta and Lambda variant going around. And it's way more transmissible. So it kind of implies, and it's kind of foreshadowing, I guess, that we're probably going to go into another lockdown. And we're going to have another year of online school. And it's going to be torturous again. I mean, some people just haven't recovered from it, but I don't know how I managed to do online school. Maybe it's because I knew a lot about tech. Maybe it's because most of the time I spend a lot of my time on computers anyway. So I was kind of used to just, constantly being on computers. But I mean, in the beginning of online school, in my 7th grade year, it was terrible. I mean, at least for like August and September, but eventually by the end of September and close to like October and all that, stopped being friends with someone, so I felt completely alone, felt like I had no one to talk to. Most of my friends had been completely separated because of COVID and online school, of course, and we just kind of stopped talking to each other. So I felt just really alone, and it was kind of just terrible. This is probably it's probably the part where I talk about depressing stuff, I guess, but eventually, I had gotten online friends. In fact, you actually may see them on the podcast because I think they would be great for this. But then I did better in online school. I was paying attention more. I was getting way better grades. In fact, I got the honor roll a couple times and I got rewards and, not rewards, just awards from the school. And for this one award I had won last year in 6th grade, I got it again for 7th for my team. Our school has teams and stuff, and it's really dumb, but it's kind of like just names of teams and stuff. But for my entire team, which is like probably a couple hundred students, I had managed to get an award. Actually, not a couple hundred students. It'd be like maybe about 100 or so because there's about like a couple hundred kids at my current grade. About like it adds up to around 1,000 or so people at the school. How the hell do they fit 1,000 people inside a single school? I'm very curious about that. Population density is a very interesting thing, I'd say. I mean, literally the population of certain towns, like literally, like at some point in history, my school had a bigger population than towns in history that had like less than 1,000 people. It's really interesting. But yeah. So online school is terrible for a lot of people, including my online friends. I mean, literally both of my online friends, they had summer school. They did summer school this year, or this summer, I mean. But I didn't have to do it because I did well. and I knew how to handle it at the end of the year. And I mean, yeah, it did suck, but I knew how to adapt. And would I do it again? No, I probably wouldn't. But I mean, I guess if I have no choice, I'm just going to have to do it and suck it up. But online school did suck. Even if I was doing good with it, it just was not fun at all. And there wasn't much, I mean, I don't know, there wasn't much to look forward to other than the end of class, not the end of class, the end of school, and also the end of the year and weekends. But I don't know. It was just kind of torturous sometimes, just waiting and waiting. But I don't know. When I finally got out of online school, there was just like this feeling that washed over me. It was like really, it was like, holy shit, I have managed to survive an entire year of online school without pretty much with like no friends whatsoever. And I did it. I got good grades. It's arguably my best year in school ever. But yet, I don't know. I feel disappointed at the same time. I mean, I probably felt the most oppressed in 7th grade compared to any other year. So, was it really worth it? Maybe. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't feel like it was worth it because I had stopped talking to someone. And because I stopped talking to someone, I stopped talking to other people because we all got separated and went our own ways with life. I mean, I had broken up with someone. I think that was actually before 7th grade though, but I don't know. I've kind of I kind of lost a lot of confidence in myself during those very tough times in the beginning of the year. And it only started improving once it was around like February to March of 2021, which is when I, made my online friends and stuff and, just talked to them and all that. I still talk to them and I still primarily talk to them because, well, although I managed to I got in contact with one of my friends who I was talking about earlier, who's in that religion. Problem is, I can't always talk with him because, I can only really talk to him in online school, or not online school, but, in real school. So it kind of sucks. But I still have my online friends to talk to. But, you know, I was planning on not just kind of, just kind of not talking to them anymore. They might actually be listening to this. So I've already told them about this, so it's fine. But once I were to find new people to talk to, like new IRL friends, I was planning on just, kind of distancing myself, I guess, since I feel like the online friends have served a purpose. That seems kind of insulting, but I really don't to mean that insultingly. But, they helped. It's great, I guess. And I just kind of like online friends. I mean, I kind of like real friends more who I can actually hang out with in real life. Problem with online friends is that they can be all over the world. And the problem is, I mean, thing is, most of my online friends are within only a couple hundred miles to where I live. But I don't know, man. With real friends, I can actually go to their houses and hang out with them and talk to them. And just when I can talk to them through Discord when I can't hang out with them in real life, but no, just it feels a lot more personal with real friends. But with online friends, there's just obviously some sort of divide, I guess, that kind of just separates what it really seems to be for a real friend to be there. So I don't know. So I somehow managed to survive an entire online year of school, and I'm already in 8th grade, which is the final year of middle school. And I'm like, what? Now, many people have told me, boomers and millennials alike, especially older siblings, but they say that time flies fast. And yeah, I guess they're right. I'm now experiencing it, and like, holy shit, well, that's just ridiculous how fast it's going. I mean, I remember 6th grade for the most part. I remember hanging out at lunch. I remember going to my classes. I remember on the first day of school being the worst one because I didn't have my schedule. I didn't have a map of the school. I didn't know where I was going really. Well, actually, no, I did know where I was going because I went to an orientation before that would get you prepared to walk around the school. But you know, I wasn't guided. So I was just walking around the campus like an idiot. But eventually I did get my way around, and eventually I stopped being an idiot. But sixth grade, I guess, it was cool, but it's kind of a time of innocence. It was like, I guess, the last time of innocence for me. Seventh grade was when shit really hit the fan. And I don't know about eighth grade. I don't know if it's going to be like just a redemption year for me. Because I feel like for seventh grade, I feel like I had real shit hit me. I feel like everything that I thought would not happen to me did. So, I broke up with someone. I stopped being friends with a good friend, but at the same time, a shitty friend. So, a lot of real stuff hit me. And now I don't know what to think, really. It seems like kind of confusing where I'm going to go from here. I mean, I talked with that one friend, that real friend I have still, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to hang out with each other at school because the problem is, since you're still friends with that other friend I used to be friends with, how are things going to work as intended? I mean, just, it's going to be kind of awkward, don't you think? And yeah, there's going to be a lot of awkward things figuring out, but that friend there, he had a way better time than I guess. He had a way better time with doing things, but I didn't really. I was just doing the best I can. I was trying to figure things out with my life, but then again, I really wasn't. I was pretty much just snowballing everything, but now I just kind of have to figure things out. You know, I've been online friends with these guys for almost a year at this point, and it seems kind of just weird that it's been almost a year. It's been almost a year that I stopped talking to that one friend. It's been, it's been a while since I broke up with my ex. So things are just going by weirdly. You know, I kind of have the mindset of just keep on going, just, whatever, just keep going forward. Shit's going to happen. Just whatever, dodge the minefield, I guess, just go straight through it. I mean, whatever, break a leg, lose a leg, just go through it. But yeah, I maybe that mindset's not working that well because I think I've already lost a leg and I've damaged my eye, so I can't see out of it. So yeah, things are just going to be very hard to figure out. Just like this podcast. Oh, you're going to say, holy shit, did you just talk about your entire personal experiences of sixth and seventh grade just to go back to how shitty this podcast is? And yes, I guess so. No, I'm kidding, but yeah, I guess that's a more personal experience right there, but I have stuff to talk about and I need to talk about stuff. Now, with new guests, it's going to be very hard to figure out because I don't want to treat it like an interview, but at the same time, I kind of do. So I want to ask them questions. If they have a YouTube channel, I want to ask them questions, of course, but I also want to kind of treat them like a friend, so it doesn't feel awkward. Because with my old channel podcast, it was very awkward. There'd be occasional moments where I'm trying to figure out what to think next and say next because I didn't think about it really, and I wasn't very good at just keeping things going forward. But yeah, so really just hopefully with the next episode being a guest episode, hopefully it works. And hopefully this episode works as well. Hopefully the audio is not cutting out like it is. Hopefully it's actually working properly. I mean, the entire time I never saw the red thing with my voice meter. So I'm just hoping that this works. I don't know if it's cutting out though. It probably is. I mean, with my luck. But yeah, I don't know how long this podcast episode is. I'm going to check it, but not trying to make each podcast episode an hour long. I just want to make it enough of just a listen, just for people to relax, I guess, get in their seats, just kind of listen. I mean, I've done a lot of very long things in my life, but I generally do not listen to podcasts, which is kind of ironic considering that I'm doing one and I'm the one talking here. So why wouldn't I get bored of myself talking? But no, I've done a lot of very boring things, and I guess listening to a podcast is just not my type of thing, really. But I mean, I've listened to the entire Everywhere at the End of Time album, which is 6 hours long. I've listened to that entire thing. I listened to the last 30 minutes of it by myself. And I mean, I listened to most of it for the entire day. I just dedicated an entire Sunday to listen to it, but I've also listened to an entire hour-long album called Hawaii Part 2, and I've discovered that it's one of my favorite albums now. And I'll, yeah, check it out, please, because it's very good. It's a very good album, I promise. And yeah, I've just done a lot of boring things. I mean, I can count to 1,000. I mean, at least I used to. I'd be able to count to 1,000 just within only 18 minutes or 14 minutes. I mean, one time I used to just, before I went to bed, I would make myself go to sleep, or at least have a goal after making myself go to sleep of counting to 1,000 more every night, eventually until I got to 10,000. But unfortunately, my family members heard that I was counting, so it seems kind of awkward, but I'm surprised they didn't think it was weird. I thought it's like, I mean, it's literally just, I'm at nighttime. It's like maybe like 8 to 10 p.m., and I'm just being like 678, 670, 679, 670. Fuck, I'm terrible at counting. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I haven't counted to 1,000 in a while. It's kind of a weird phase I had, just like counting a bunch, just counting progressively until you get to 10,000. Now, I was considering counting to 10,000 in one day at some point, but I realized it was 3 hours long and I didn't really have that dedication or time. So I didn't do it. So I just counted to 1,000. In fact, on my old channel, I literally have a live stream on myself counting to 1,000. So it was kind of funny. Yeah. So, what's the meaning of all this? Well, time passes by fast, and time is the eventual end of our existence. I've said that in my Phasmophobia video because it perfectly applies. Every human is scared of time because ultimately you cannot stop it. There's just no way to stop it. Then again, maybe there will be. There's going to be an aging possible pill that will increase the lifespan by a lot, maybe by a couple hundred years. And, some people want to be immortal forever, but I don't really. But at the same time, I kind of do. I mean, I'm scared of death, but I'm also not scared of it. So I kind of want to be immortal, but choose when I want to die, which is cool. So that'd be a great power, just, I mean, maybe it would be torturous, but just be immortal until, I feel like it. So, yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that audio wasn't too bad. Hopefully this podcast was good enough. Hopefully you guys liked listening to it. And hopefully this next episode with a guest will be good and things will work perfectly. I don't really have much to do or say other than here, so going Scoobs and goodbye. And have a nice day, Guten Tag, whatever the fuck you say, wherever you are, just, goodbye. Now I'm checking it right now and it says 56 minutes, 58 minutes. So there we go. We got an hour in for a podcast. That's a very nice job for me. So yeah, that's very cool.